So, welcome back my dear students and friends. Welcome back to my class on Convention on Biological Diversity. So, today we'll be discussing about the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety to the Convention of Biological Diversity. So, welcome back. I'm Professor Urus Ilyas, working in Department of Wildlife Sciences, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh, and involved in teaching for almost 2 decades. So, welcome. uh, Welcome in the Cartagena Protocol of Biosafety to the Convention on the Biological Diversity. Why? Why was the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety was needed? We discussed about the Convention on Biological Diversity, and um, uh, one of the protocol was the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. So why it was needed when um, we were talking about the biodiversity conservation, sustainable utilization, equitable, fair and equitable sharing of the resources arising from the genetic material. So, Cartagena Protocol on biosafety was needed because biotechnology advancement, the rapid development of genetically modified organisms raised concern over their potential risk to biodiversity, human health and the environment. Cross-border risk, GMO could easily move across national border, creating challenges for countries unprepared to manage or regulate their impact. Lack of global standards, there was no international framework to ensure the safe transfer, handling and use of genetically modified organism, especially in developing countries, and precaution approach, the need for a legal binding agreement to apply a precautionary principle, allowing countries to make informed decision on the importance of the use of GMOs based on potential risk. So basically, Cartagena Protocol was about the biosafety when you are transferring the genetic material from one country to another country. So what all safety measure we have to take to ensure that the Cartagena Protocol was done, but Cartagena Protocol on biosafety was needed. So Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety overview, it was adopted on January 29, 2000, and this entered into force in September 2003. So 173 parties, 173 countries were the member of this Cartagena Protocol, and it was for safe transfer, handling and use of living modified organism from modern biotechnological, preventing potential adverse effect on conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. It also considers risk of human health with a specific focus on transboundary movement. So this was the overview of the Cartagena Protocol. It was adopted on 29 January and actually came into force in September 2003. So, what is the history of the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety? The CBD, Convention on Biological Diversity, opened for signature in 1992 and entered into force on 29 December 1993. We have already discussed this in our earlier lecture. So, biodiversity is one of the issue addressed by the convention. The convention recognized these twin aspects of modern biotechnology. First, to provide for the access to the safe transfer of technologies and to seek to ensure the development of appropriate procedures to enhance the safety of biotechnology. At its second meeting held in November 1995, the Conference of Parties to Convention established an open-ended ad hoc working group on biosafety to develop a draft protocol on biosafety, focusing especially on the transboundary movement of living modified organism, that is LMO. After several years of negotiation, the protocol known as the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, the Convention on Biological Diversity, was finalized and adopted in Montreal on 29 January 2000 at an extraordinary meeting of the Conference of the Parties, extraordinary meeting of the COP. So basically, meeting held on 1995, and finally it was adopted in Montreal on 29 January 2000. So it took almost 5 years to get adopted. Biosafety and the Cartagena Protocol. Biosafety and the Cartagena Protocol. Biosafety. What is biosafety? It refers to the principle and measure taken to reduce risk related to transfer, handling, and use of living modified organism, that is LMO, particularly in relation to the environment and human health. Cartagena Protocol is an international agreement under the Convention of Biodiversity. It aims to ensure the safety movement of LMOs across border, addressing the potential risk of the boundaries, biodiversity, and human health. And key areas covered: safe handling of LMOs. LMOs is living modified organism to prevent any adverse effect on biodiversity. And second is the risk assessment to identify and evaluate risk related to the transfer and use of LMOs. Advanced informed agreement to ensure countries provide consent before accepting LMOs, accepting living modified organism. Objective and key goal of Cartagena Protocol: the main objective to ensure an adequate level of protection in safe transfer, handling, and use of living modified organism resulting from modern biotechnology, focuses on preventing adverse effect on biological diversity and human health, particularly with respect to transfer movement of LMOs. That is the Article 1 of the. So, key goal: promote sustainable use of biodiversity by regulating the movement and use of LMOs, and encouraging informed decision making by countries regarding the importance of LMOs. Facilitate global cooperation in biosafety through information sharing and capacity building. The scope is the covers LMOs that may have adverse effect on biodiversity, ecosystem, and human health. That includes regulation on the export and import of LMOs, focusing on transboundary movement, excludes pharmaceutical derived from LMOs that are addressed by other international agreements. So, these are the objective and key goals of the Cartagena Protocol. So, we know there are 40 articles under the CBD and 3 annex here. Annex 1 is about the form required to notification under Article 8, 10, and 13. And Annex 2 is information regarding concerning living modified organism intended for direct use as food or feed or for the processing under Article 11, and the Annex 3 is about the risk assessment. So, Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, Article 4 of the CBT states the protocol shall apply to the transboundary movement, transits, handling, and use of all living modified organisms that may have adverse effect on the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity, taking also into account risk of human health. And Article 5 is about the effective exempts pharmaceutical for human from the protocol. And Article 6 is about make clear that its advance informed and agreement procedure does not apply to LMOs in transit or to the movement of LMOs intended for contained use. So, these are the main 4 articles: Article 4, Article 5, and Article 6, which explain and ensure the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. So, key elements of the International Biosafety Protocol: AIA procedures, biosafety clearance houses, risk management, and capacity building, public awareness, advanced informed agreement procedure, that is AIA. So, advanced informed agreement procedure means establishes an advanced informed agreement procedure for first time shipment of LMOs including seeds. LMOs not intended for release into the environment exclude from AIA provision LMOs intended for direct use as food, feed, and processing, LMOs in transit, LMOs destined for contained use, and LMOs identified by the meeting of parties as being not likely to have adverse impact. Advanced informed agreement procedure. What is advanced informed agriculture procedure? So party or exporter notifies party of import of its intention to ship LMOs. It must provide a detailed written description of the organism. The party of import is to acknowledge receipt of the information within 90 days and explicitly authorize the shipment within 220 days or states its reasons for rejecting the LMOs or request additional relevant information in accordance with its domestic regulatory framework. And the fourth is the absence of responses within 270 days is not to be interpreted as implying consent. So these are the advanced informed agreement procedure. Biosafety clearing houses. Every nation has got the biosafety clearing houses. Article 20 of the protocol establish a biosafety clearing houses, that is BCH, biosafety clearing houses, as part of the clearinghouses mechanism under Article 18 in order to facilitate the exchange of scientific, technical, environmental and legal information and exercise within LMOs. Assistant parties to assist parties to implement the protocol, taking into account the spatial need of developing countries, country parties and countries with economies in transition, countries that are center of origin and center of genetic diversity. So this is the biodiversity clearing houses, and biosafety clearing houses is to give notice to domestic authorization of LMOs and to make available copies of national laws and regulation concerning these LMOs. Information that should be made available to the BCH, that biosafety clearing houses, any existing law, regulation and guideline for implementation of protocol, information required by parties of AIA procedure, any bilateral, regional and multilateral agreement and arrangements, summaries of its risk assessment or environmental review of LMOs generated by its regulatory process. Relevant information regarding a procedure thereof, its final decision regarding the importance of release of LMOs. So, biosafety clearing houses, the pilot phase of the biosafety clearing houses website has been created to assist government to fulfill their information sharing obligation under the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. The BCH provides access to information relevant to biosafety protocol. Users can search BCH database for information in the following categories like national contacts, law and regulation, decision information, capacity building, roster of experts. Third is the risk assessment and risk management. That is the very important component of biosafety, risk assessment and risk management. The objective of risk assessment is to identify and evaluate the potential adverse effect of LMOs on the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity in the likely potential receiving environment, taking into account risk of human health, requires government to establish and maintain mechanism, measures and strategies for regulating, managing and controlling risk identified in the risk assessment procedure of LMOs in the use, handling and transboundary movement. To take into account socio-economic considerations such as the value of biological diversity to its indigenous and local communities in reaching a decision on import of GMOs. RM means of managing the risk to reduce the probability of occurrence or to reduce the magnitude of the consequences, manage the risk throughout the stages. So, risk assessment to be undertaking a scientific manner based on recognizing risk assessment technique involve multidisciplinary effort among physical, scientific, toxicological, biologists, and in case where the relevant scientific understanding is incomplete, a country may decide to use the precautionary principle and refuse to permit imports. So, standard for acceptable risk, sustainable equivalence as safe as product produced by alternative means, not substitute for a safety assessment but part of a safety assessment process. Precaution principle approaches where there are threat of serious or irrelevant damage, lack of full scientific certainty shall not be used as reason for postponing cost effective measures to provide environmental degradation. These are the standards for acceptable risk. Fourth is the capacity building. So, capacity building is the development and or strengthening of human resource and institutional capacity for biosafety, including biotechnology, to the extent that it is required for biosafety for the purpose of the effective implementation of the protocol. Promote international cooperation to help developing countries build the needed human resources and institutional capacity. Encourages the government to assist with scientific and technical trainings in the proper and safe management of biotechnology, in the use of risk assessment, risk management of biodiversity, that is RM, and the enhancement of technological, institutional capacity and biosafety. So, these are the capacity building and public awareness and participation. What is the public awareness and participation? If we are talking about the biosafety protocol, Cartagena protocol for biosafety. So, biosafety means when transferring the living organism from one state to another state, one country to another country, there are certain protocol which we have to follow so that the less damage to the product as well as to the nation should be there. Damage should not be there. Promote public awareness and participation. Definitely, public awareness and participation can be done only after the spreading the awareness among the masses. To promote and facilitate public awareness concerning the safe transfer, handling, use of LMOs, consult the public in the decision making process regulating living modified objects, LMOs, public access to the biodiversity clearing houses, and illegal shipments and accidental release of LMOs. India and Cartagena Protocol. India also is the signatory of the Cartagena Protocol. In fact, we are the signatory of the CBD. So, adoption and implementation, India signed the Cartagena Protocol in 2000 and India ratified in 2003. It was implemented to India in 2003. So, the implementing authority of the Cartagena Protocol is the National Biodiversity Authority, NBA. Actually, when we made the CBD Act 2002, so under the CBD Act, there are 3-layer committee at the national level, at the state level, and at the community level. So, at the national level, we have National Biodiversity Authority. At the state level, we have a State Biodiversity Board, and the community level, we have Community Management Committees. So, these are the 3 committees under the CBD Act 2002 working and are the decision making for any international matter the NBA will be deciding. NBA will be deciding on the basis of the State Biodiversity Board. Whatever State Biodiversity Board providing the information on the basis of NBA, take decisions. And this comes from the Biodiversity Monitoring Committee, those who are actually taking care of the biodiversity of the area, because every living organism belongs to one geographical location, and the geographical location means GI tag. Geographical location gives the proof that the country has the sovereign right over the product. So this is what is the this. So we adopted, India signed the Cartagena Protocol in 2000, and India ratified in 2003. Implementing authorities, National Biodiversity Authority and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is the implementing authority. So what are the key elements? So the key elements are the regulatory framework. India has established regulation under the Biosafety Guideline of 2008. 2000 we signed, and 2003 we ratified. And 2008 we developed the Biosafety Guidelines, which governs the import, export and handling of living modified organism. So we signed the Cartagena Protocol in 2000. We have the Biodiversity Act 2002, and India ratified the Cartagena Protocol in 2003. And by 2008, we had the Biosafety Guideline of 2008, which governed the import, export, and handling of living modified organism, that is LMOs. Biosafety committees, Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee review and approves the release and import of GMOs and their products. And biosafety clearing houses, India actively contribute to the BCS, sharing information on LMOs and biosafety practices. The Nagoya Kuala Lumpur Supplementary Protocol, this was adopted in October 15, 2002 in Nagoya, Japan, and supplement to Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety under the Convention on Biological Diversity, focuses addressing international rules of liabilities and redress of damage caused by the transboundary movement of living modified organism. The objective was to ensure that countries have a clear framework for taking legal action and providing redress in case where LMOs cause damage to biodiversity. It came into force, its entry into the force was the March 5, 2018, one ratified by the required number of parties. Purpose and objective of the protocol: promote environmental protection. The protocol aims to enhance environmental protection by ensuring that those responsible for the introduction of LMOs bear the cost and damage that may occur. Foster legal certainty. It seeks to provide legal certainty and clarity regarding the process for seeking redress in the event of damage caused by LMOs. Facilitate access to justice. By establishing clear liability rules, the protocol facilitates access to justice for affected parties in transboundary LMOs access. So purpose and objective of the protocol is done. And then we have scope and the provision. The protocol covers damage resulting from transboundary movement of LMOs under Cartagena Protocol, Advanced Informed Agreement, that is AIA procedure. And the provision, it lays down specific rules and procedure for addressing, documenting and providing redress of damage caused by LMOs. So liabilities and redress mechanism for damage resulting from transboundary movement of LMOs. One is liability determination, redress procedure and compensation mechanism. So liability determination is actually, the protocol establishes clear guideline for determining liability in case of damage caused by transboundary movement of LMOs, and redress procedure means it outlined the procedure for seeking redress, including the submission of claim and the process of assessment and compensation. Compensation mechanism, it defined the mechanism of ensuring fair and adequate compensation to parties affected by LMOs related damage. Implementation and compliance with the protocol, national legislation, capacity building, and monitoring and reporting. These three are the important component for any kind of implementation and compliance with the protocol. And it is must if you have signed, if the nation is the signatory of the Cartagena Protocol. So, national legislation, countries are required to incorporate the protocol's provision into national legal framework, which we did. India did. Capacity building, efforts are made to enhance the capacity of countries to effectively implement like the liabilities and redress mechanism. Monitoring and reporting, the protocol includes provision for monitoring and reporting of incident and the effectiveness of the liability and redress system. Benefits and potential challenges of protocol, definitely if we are talking about the biosafety, the nation, every nation which is taking care will be the biosafety. So, environmental protection, the protocol The protocol offers enhanced protection to the environment by ensuring that the impact of LMOs is properly addressed and compensated. Complex implementation, implementing the liability and redress mechanism across different legal systems and jurisdictions process significant challenges. International cooperation, the protocol requires close international cooperation to effectively address transboundary LMOs damage and ensure fair compensation. So, other international instrumental relevant to the protocol, UNIDO, Volunteer Code of Conduct for the release of organism into the environment, that is 1992, UNAP, International Technical Guideline for Safety in Biotechnology, IPPC, International Plant Protection Convention 1997, and Codex Alimentarius Commission. So, these are the other international instrument relevant to the protocol. So, this is all about the Cartagena Protocol of Biosafety. Thank you very much. Hope you understood and enjoy the lecture. Thank you very much.